You're very welcome back. Now, our next guest has written a book to help children navigate grief. It's called A Quick Goodbye.
The book is dedicated to her brother Daniel, who died by suicide. Please welcome psychotherapist and play therapist and now author Lauren Golden. Lauren, good morning. It's lovely to have you here. Thank you so much.
No, absolutely.
We'll talk about the book in a second, but first of all, could you tell us about your brother Daniel?
So I always describe Daniel as just electric, like an unbelievable person. And obviously in this past month or so, and definitely this year, I've been speaking so much about Dan, and his death comes up all the time. And I think it's really important that we understand that it's not one type of person who dies by suicide. Dan his laughter was contagious. The person that he was, he still inspires me today, you know. He also struggled, and I think that's apparent in the way that he did die. But I also just want to get out there that Dan is so much more than how he passed. But he did, and I think he continues to inspire us every single day, and he's definitely inspired this book.
Yeah.
Can you explain to us, he had BPD, a borderline personality disorder. He had that diagnosis a few years before he passed. Can you explain to us what that was?
BPD, unfortunately, is marked with a huge risk of death by suicide. It is marked by impulsivity, difficulty in relationships, which would have been the biggest one for him. You know, maintaining relationships, understanding them. But the biggest thing is this fear of abandonment, and then having these almost reactions and outbursts based on this immense fear of abandonment. And anyone who's experienced BPD will understand this immense fear. And then, you know, all the wits and awareness and big heart afterwards. So then having to deal with the guilt of that, you know. It's a really, really, really difficult diagnosis. We have like DBT programs in Ireland to try and help specifically with BPD, because it's a very specific type of therapy that you'd need. And unfortunately, when he was engaging in help, it was for general, you know, general poor mental health. He wasn't getting specific, tailored, targeted mental health support. And look, we can all sit and wonder, I think anyone in grief does, if we look back and we had, you know, better support and if we knew more. But at the same time, this is what we know now, and I just want to spread that awareness. You know, if anyone is struggling with BPD, there are DBT programs in Ireland. Reach out to someone who knows what it is, you know, who makes you feel safe. I ended up doing my thesis on BPD, and one of the biggest factors, because of what I just spoke about earlier, that kind of fear of abandonment between a therapist and someone with BPD, is the trust, it's the relationship, it's making the other person feel safe enough to challenge, because their thoughts will be skewed, and it's about challenging them in a way that feels safe, you know.
It's getting the diagnosis in the first place is probably...
There's that too.
Like, you know, and is it misdiagnosed?
It can be. It can be. There's like, interestingly enough, there's an overlap between like BPD, a misdiagnosis, borderline personality, bipolar, and even autism. Do you know? So yeah, it can be quite difficult. You
mentioned there you did your thesis on BPD, obviously because it was something that affected your life. Because when you decided, you had your own mental health kind of issues when you were growing up in your teenage life. Yeah. And you went on to be a psychotherapist.
Yeah, it's really interesting because like I'm here today now speaking to you guys, and there'd be times where I wouldn't look someone in the eye when I was a teenager. You know, my confidence was on the floor, my anxiety was at an all-time high. I was in the workforce then as an adult, and I was getting MRIs for dizziness. I had something called DPDR, so dissociation, where I'd feel really detached from myself, from the world around me, and I just was convinced it was something physically in my brain, and everything was coming back perfectly normal. And eventually I decided to seek therapy, and it was just life-changing. Everything changed since then. And it wasn't long after that I was like, this is what I want to do, you know?
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And I'm sure your brother had a big part of that as well. I mean, can you take us back to the day that you found out that Daniel had passed?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, like I said, and this is the reason why I want to speak about BPD so much and the risk factors, is because even though I knew his diagnosis, I never would have thought suicide with Dan, ever. The day that he passed, my mum had gotten a message on her phone, and I was going down to my mum and my sister, and I'd been shown the message, and I was like, look guys, don't worry. I was killing him. I was messaging him being like, you better answer your phone. Like, my mum's up in a heap, you better answer your phone. And we'd kind of gotten word that there was some part of Cork blocked off, and that there was potentially someone who'd passed away up there. And my sister was like, I think it's him. And my sister and my mum at this point are like really worried. And I'm still not. And when I drove up is when the guards came to give the news, you know. Yeah.
I can't even imagine that moment when the guards come to your door.
Grief is so unique to each person. I spoke recently on a podcast about how it affected me very differently to how it affected other people in that moment. Like, we'll all weave through our phases at different points in our life, but at that moment for me, I was met with a sense of comfort and hope and presence. Like, I felt like he was just there to support me the entire time, you know. So I was able to kind of like gather myself, go back home. Obviously, you're still in shock. I remember I got back to the house and everyone was just obviously, you know, so up in a heap. And I looked at the guard and I was like, is he gone? You know, like, I still kind of didn't have that. It didn't click just yet, you know. But in those first few weeks, I really felt like guided by him. I felt minded. You know, obviously I did my own work and had to feel other things too, anger, sad, all of it. But in those moments, I felt really comforted in the first few weeks, thank goodness, you know.
Your mum as well, because her and Daniel had a really close bond.
The strongest bond. Like, I speak about BPD and how difficult it is to trust someone. He never had that with her. The one person in life he absolutely like had his back. I mean, anytime he'd have a difficulty in a relationship, like, the room would be flipped back to his childhood bedroom. She'd come home to Mammy, like, you know. She, like, their bond is unbelievable. And I think it's important as well to speak on the fear that parents have when they have a child who dies by suicide. My mum would fear judgment around, like, oh my God, will people think, you know, that we didn't do a good job or that he wasn't supported? And that is it's not the case. It's not the case. We spoke very openly about mental health in our family. My mum and Daniel had some of the most difficult conversations, like, you wouldn't really have between a mum and son usually, you know. Yeah, their bond was unbelievable.
The night that Daniel died, after his toxicology results came back, it was found that he had very high levels of alcohol in his system. And being a psychotherapist, this is something that you have become increasingly more interested in when it comes to suicide.
Absolutely.
And the connection between it and alcohol, because we know that alcohol and inhibitions and brain and what it does to you, you know, it really does change who you are as a person.
100%, yeah.
So when you found that out, how did you feel?
So the family were almost gone in for, it sounds terrible, but like, they were like, there was drugs. Like, there was definitely hardcore drugs. Like, there must have been drugs. There must have been something that, you know, influenced his decision. And there was, but that drug was alcohol, you know. Not to say, because obviously the BPD's there anyway, you know, not to say that, like, alcohol caused it, but alcohol is a contributing factor to 50%, you know, up to 50% of deaths by suicide. And I don't think that's something that we should ignore. And I think in Ireland, we use drink to celebrate the person. I definitely have, you know. And it wasn't until this year I really decided to kind of sit into it and be like, okay, I don't think I can ignore this anymore. I'm seeing the stats. I'm seeing them constantly. And I mean, 50%, you know. So this year I've decided to go sober. I've been sober for like 9 months for the entire year that we share an age.
Your Daniel died in 2021 at 28 and you are now 28 years old, which is very hard, I'd imagine, you know, that you're going to go beyond that age, you know.
Oh, that was it.
Yeah.
And I think that was the reason. I was like, as long as we share an age, I don't want a sip of alcohol. I want to honour him in that way, first of all. But I knew this would be the hardest grief year, and it definitely has been, you know. It definitely has been. Interestingly enough, like, this helps, like, speaking about it and raising awareness, because it doesn't feel like all of this happened in vain. It feels like we can do something with it, you know.
This brings us on to the book, A Quick Goodbye. Why did you decide to write this? Because it's for children who are navigating a difficult topic.
Yeah, I think, like, even us as adults here now, I can sense it in the room, like, it's difficult to speak on grief as adults. And when I studied play therapy, I realised, wow, this is actually even more complex in kids. It's really, really hard for the adults to know what to say. And Dan had 2 beautiful kids and a stepdaughter who he adored, you know. So they've definitely inspired it.
2 beautiful children, and you say that, but what you've done is, like, there's a hedgehog and a rabbit. Yeah. And we look and see the river, the colours on the tree, but some people see the world a little bit different to you and me. For some, they meet a hurdle where they see a lot less colour and have no fun in parks and songs from one time to another. Yeah. It's kind of seeing that it's gorgeous how you've done it.
Thank you.
Just viewing the world in a different way.
Absolutely.
And it mightn't be as colourful, it might be harder for other people to see the colour. It's a gorgeous metaphor to use.
Thank you.
I'm assuming you were thinking about Dan's children, his stepdaughter, the whole way through this?
Definitely. And Dan, like if you look at the hedgehog, he has like a little dicky bow on. And that's because Dan was like super eccentric and he would just like wear these mad outfits. Like that is just a little nod to him, do you know? But definitely his children, absolutely, do you know, who are still very young. So like I won't mention their names or anything like that. But their parents, who are doing an amazing job, like are at that point of trying to navigate these conversations. And the book isn't to be the thing that tells someone, right? The book is a tool. The book will bring up the themes because the guidance in Ireland and across the board is that we do tell children. As hard as it is, it's that we do tell kids in an age-appropriate way what actually happened. And I think the book is vague enough to allow for questions as the child matures, so that you saw that then there was themes. What do you mean a lot less colour? And I think as you age, that will mean something different to you, do you know? So they can lean into questions and come back to it time and time again.
Listen, I love the bit at the end as well, where it's just sharing memories, and as you said, talking about this helps. So writing it down, writing down your memories, writing down your thoughts is so important. How are you? How's Daniel's partner, your mum? How the family?
I think everyone is coping in their own ways, do you know? My mum is on the other side of the screen. Like I'm actually thinking of her at the moment. I'm like, are you okay? But she inspires all of us all the time. She's an absolute, and I'm slow to say warrior because anyone who's been through so much doesn't want to be a warrior, do you know? But she's so inspiring, so inspiring.
The book is called A Quick Goodbye. It's gorgeous, really well done. It's such a beautiful thing. Lauren Golden, psychotherapist, play therapist as well, and now author. Thank you so much, and thanks for talking to us about Daniel. We really appreciate it.